Welcome to the pre-show, folks. Everything's on. Everything's going. So I'm good. I can just sit back. I got about 4 minutes to blow before we start the show. How's everybody tonight? Leslie Holker, good to see you. Oh, she'll be back soon, she said. Niall said, I've never heard of anyone eating bears before. I saw something else about, yeah, you can eat bear meat. I've had bear meat. It was ground. We did ground like burgers with it years ago. It was actually very good. Black bear the size of baby elephant? Maybe. We had a black bear run through our front yard a couple of years ago. I was standing out in the driveway, and we lived at a T in the road, and our house was up here facing the street, and it was a quiet suburban street and in the country. And out of the corner of my eye, I thought I saw my neighbor's big, overweight, fluffy German Shepherd. Now, this is just out of the corner of my eye, running down the street. And I turned and I looked, went, oh, that's no moon. It's a space station. That was a black bear, just loping down the street, right down the middle of the residential neighborhood street. Loping. Somebody was there at our house visiting, and she had her parked out front. She had her head in the trunk of her car digging for something. The bear went right by her, passed her within 3 feet, went around the front of her car, and then through our front yard and in between the houses, and went out to the fields back behind our house, and then off into the cornfields. But it was just loping the whole time. It was like, don't mind me. I'm just going point A to point B. And I remember I was out there on the driveway and I yelled, bear! And so the police came by a little later and said, yeah, every year the bears come up there's a couple of them that come up from the river flats out here. And they're harmless, but stay out of their way. They don't really do that. They're used to having people around. So it was interesting. Hey, guys. Hey, John Quavius, Tinglebottom. There you go. Oh, is that Flynn? Oh, we want Flynn. Who's calling for Flynn? Is it a friend of Flynn's? You're going to have to reveal to me who you are if I'm going to call for Flynn. All right, guys, we got 1 minute and 15 seconds left before we go live. So everybody, yeah, you like this? You like the new studio? It is like a boiler room. Look at this field guy. If I swing the camera around, this is the basement. And so far, that over there that's the family room. Well, it will be when we are done with it. And over there's a couple of huge bedrooms. One of them is going to be the studio. And it's not ready to occupy yet. So we're going to be doing some work on them. And you like the echo chamber? Yeah, it's nice down here. Hey, Elizabeth. How you doing? And everybody, how you doing? Good to see everybody here tonight. Susie Q, good to see you. Matthew Sainsbury, good to see you. All right, guys, we've got about 25 seconds, and we are going to go live on air over at the radio station. So stand by. We're going to go black right now, go dark, and we'll go into the opening sequence. So stand by. Stay tuned.
The Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
Are you looking for a really awesome and amazing graphic designer? How about an illustrator or a photographer? This is Rainey Roberts, and I wanted to tell you how you can get my designer, illustrator husband, Scotty Roberts, to work for you on your project. Do you have an awesome self-published book but no cover, or even worse, a cover that really sucks? Do you need a kick-ass logo for your company or some f***ing awesome graphic designs for your ads or website? Then get in touch with my husband for the best f***ing awesome kick-ass design and illustration. He knows his stuff, and he's been at this for more years than I've been alive. Go to ScottAllenRoberts.com. That's Scott with two T's, ALANROBERTS.com to take a look at his online portfolio of work, or call 651-468-8115. Now go out and kick some ass with some kick-ass graphic design.
Hire my dad so he can take me to Disneyland.
You're listening to the Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
How many of you would consider yourselves to be happy? How many would consider yourselves to be content? These are the big questions that we have. I know that there are some here in the chat room, and I expect some good feedback from you all tonight, who think that happiness is, I don't know if I'd call it a myth, but something that we can't usually get or attain, and that there's something that happiness isn't a real thing. Some of us believe it is. There's also the question of contentedness. What makes one content? Now, we started this last night, and we're going to continue on with it a little bit tonight, because we didn't finish last night. But first of all, I want to introduce myself to those of you who have no idea who I am. I'm Scotty Roberts, and this is my program, the Intrepid Radio Broadcast. We are broadcasting to you live from my basement. Let's make it more mysterious. The bunker. Everybody has a bunker. How many radio shows? We're broadcasting to you live from the bunker tonight. Well, I feel like I'm actually in a bunker right now. Concrete walls, concrete floor, rafters for the ceilings. But this is the new house. This is not yet the new studio. This is temporarily where my desk will sit while we're prepping the studio over in one of the big rooms over there. And yes, field guy, this is a basement. This is what basements look like for those of you living down in Louisiana. The basement is dug about 10 feet into a hole in the ground. Concrete walls and floor are poured, and then the house is built atop of this. So this is it. This is what a basement is. And by the way, if you want to just hear the show in audio format, go to Odyssey Radio, ODYSY radio.com. And we broadcast in 3 different places on Facebook and also on YouTube, where you can join the live chat room going on right now. And if you are over there and you are not subscribed to my channel, please do. And also give the show a thumbs up. That helps us. Algorithms, yada, yada. All of that stuff. So, and if you'd like to become a member of this program, just hit the join button. It'll show you how. Hey, Rudy Dog Kessler, good to see you. Elizabeth Richardson, Matthew Sainsbury, Niall Parkinson. It looks like I'm in a shipping container. It kind of feels that way. But I'm actually in a really big, wide open space. So it's about 28 feet of room going that way. That's pretty much empty. And that's why it's echoing so much. And about 26 feet of room this way with an extended another 4 or 5 feet and just a notch here where the doorways are to the big bedrooms. Bedrooms and studio, those are about 20 feet by 18 feet each, both of those rooms. So Uncle Dave is going to come in next week sometime, and we're going to start doing some painting on the floors and things like that. Travis Schaefer in the chat room. How you doing, Travis? Good to see you, brother. I think this is the first time I've seen you in the show. So good to have you here. Morgan Snow, Susie Q. Who else did I miss? Anybody? Is Matt Finn here? I don't know if he's here yet tonight or if he's here tonight at all. But Niall, I spoke to Niall. Niall over in Ireland. Thanks for being here. Shelly Sanderson, good to see you. And go Rainey, she says. I don't know where Rainey is right now. She's upstairs. So, but she's not in the show tonight. I've got a chair. And by the way, when we do Sundays now, I'm just going to put her other chair right next to me on this desk. Didn't have room over in the old studio. Now we've got room to breathe. In through the nose, out through the mouth, blah, 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 blah. So thank you, everybody, for being here. I appreciate your presence here. Now, with so many things going on, so many different things to talk about, we're going to try to focus right in on the show tonight. Andrea Mulnix, good to see you, by the way. I want to talk about happiness and contentment. I asked you those leading questions at the very beginning. Do you consider yourself to be a happy person? Do you consider yourself to be the opposite? Are you an unhappy person? Is that really an opposite? Are those two different facets of the same thing? Are you somebody who, we left off with a list of 9 things we had last night that I said, these are the things that are the 9 ways to be content. And we got through about 5 of them, and they were, we got through 4 of them. The last one was avoid comparing yourself to others. And then there was, and these seemed, by the way, these seemed a little too psychobabbly and a little too superficial to me, although they are important and they're actual things. Cultivate gratitude was the first one. Keep a positive mindset was the second one. Can you have a positive mindset if you're unhappy? Does unhappiness or does happiness promote a positive mindset, or does a positive mindset promote happiness? That's a big question. Be compassionate toward other people. This promotes contentment in your life. Avoid comparing yourself to other people. That's the one we left off on. And then step 5, stop making excessive purchases was one of the steps here. And it's all about, while buying things can make us feel good about stuff that we do, extra stuff isn't going to do that for us. That doesn't bring contentment in the long run. That brings superficial happiness, temporal happiness. I will tell you this, that they say money doesn't buy happiness. That might be true, but the lack of money can sure buy an awful lot of unhappiness. So it's all how we look at things. If you don't have money to put a roof over your head, what if you got a family and you don't have enough money coming in? What do? That can create an awful lot of unhappiness. It can create a lot of discontentedness. Can you find ways to be content and happy through those? I think there are ways you find to try to stay positive, but sometimes we just want to be pulled under by the discouragement and all of that stuff. So we give into it. That's where depression comes there. Learn to take pleasure in simple things. It was step 6. All the simple things in life. What's the one? Yes, I like pina coladas. Taking walks in the rain. Bum, 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 bum. The simple things in life. Pina coladas and rain. Try to be patient is the 7th one. Everyone finds themselves from time to time growing impatient. Maybe it's when you feel as if no one understands you, no one listens to you, no one gets your point of view. And that can be very frustrating. And that can be something that leads you. It gets your blood boiling. can result in your negativity rising and it's dissatisfaction. Physical ailments come out of that. You know how many ailments that we get as humans that are connected to our discontentedness, our unhappiness? So instead of living frustration, try to gain patience. Patience makes perfect, they say, or practice makes perfect. One way to deal with this problem could be to take life less seriously, even though it's a very serious affair, living and life and the elements of life. You got to try to think of something positive while you wait for things to happen. Number 8, do you find something to believe in? You have something to believe in. I think what has led to the most discontent, if any, in my life has been the faith questions I have. Now, by the way, Elizabeth Richardson in the chat room, that's twice I've seen you say, try some DMT, really. Hallucinogens are something I don't think I need in my life right now. I don't know. Maybe it would. I would love to try ayahuasca, but in the proper setting at the proper time. So anyway, Elizabeth, you'll have to tell me about the ins and outs of DMT and why it would be such a good thing to try. So step 8 is find something to believe in. Now, there's days when I feel as if I have nothing to believe in. Nothing to put my faith in, nothing that's solid. It makes me feel like life isn't worth living, but let me qualify that. I would never out myself. I love my life too much. Even when I'm in my bad days, I love life. I have always said the worst thing I would do, if I came to a situation where I felt I needed to end it all, I would probably end it all, but in a different way than you might think. I would probably just disappear into the woodwork and I'd be gone. Nobody would know where I am. Nobody would find me until I wanted to be found. And I might end up somewhere else in another part of the world. Niall Parkinson says, I think that it's very important to live your life without happiness if you feel that's the way you should live. How difficult is that? You think that we should live without happiness if we want to live it with happiness, or that it's very important to live your life without happiness if you feel that is the way you should live? Why? I would think living without happiness in your life could be something that would eventually tear apart your insides. If not ulcers and different ailments that come, the things that we focus on become very different if we don't focus on being a little happier. So we should all commit to having values. We should all commit to having beliefs. This is what motivates us to keep going. Some of my values are creativity, intelligence, compassion. These are the values I have that keep me going. I'm a lot more compassionate than some people that I know. Even my wife. My wife, you'd think the female of the species, tends to nurture more, have more compassion. My wife can be nurturing, but sometimes she is as compassionless as a rock. I could cut myself. I cut my finger lobe, my finger, my knuckle off. And she'd go, are you okay? And I go, yeah. She'd go, okay. I have a heart attack. You know what she told me when I first got home from the hospital? When I had the heart surgery 5 years ago, she said, almost 6 years ago, frankly. She said, you got 2 weeks. I'm going to wait on you for 2 weeks, and then you're on your own. Now, some of that might have been the way to tough love encouragement to get up off and on my feet. And I was. And it wasn't because she said that. It's because I'm a positive person anyway. And I strive to be that. When you don't live by your values, you eventually won't have a desire to live at all. Niall, if your value is to not live happiness, is that your desire, to not have happiness? You won't have anything to believe in. And that really isn't a real life in the way I view life. Having beliefs doesn't have to be boring or even particularly difficult. It can be as simple as believing animals have rights, or writing letters to close animal kill centers, or whatever it might be. The last of the 9 points I had from last night: be present in the moment. Being there. With everything going on around us, the noise of the internet, social media, the stresses of life, it's understandable that many of us have trouble living in the moment. Life is distracting from all sides. We're too damn busy feeling anxious. From the decisions over what to make for dinner to whether or not we're ever going to slow down and spend more time focusing on our goals and our dreams. But thinking too much about the future means we can't relish the present enough. So I try to stay present. You're in the here and the now. When we talked about being awake, be awake, be aware that you're awake, be aware that you're in the moment. We can't control the future. Can't control the past. We got the present. That's what we're going to work on. Let's define happiness. I want to do that especially for Niall. I thought of you because we've had this conversation in the past. But there's a psychological look at happiness. And with that comes about 5 behaviors we should adopt. And happiness, it feels like it's something that's really hard to come by these days, if you haven't noticed. In many ways, life's challenges have become more complicated, even though we live in a time where the answers and connections can be found at our fingertips on our keyboard. So what separates those individuals who feel happy and satisfied from those who don't? So according to several scientific studies, mindset plays a large role in happiness. And here's what you should know about happy and contented people, how they think. They practice self-acceptance. University of Hertfordshire psychologists, they conducted a survey of 5,000 people in 2014 that asked them to rate themselves on the 10 habits identified from scientific research as being key to happiness, such as giving and relating. And the one habit many people fell short on was self-acceptance. Almost half of the survey participants rated themselves at 5 or less on a 10-point scale. Our society puts huge pressure on us to be successful and to constantly compare ourselves with others. This causes a great deal of unhappiness and anxiety. These findings remind us that if we can learn to be more accepting of ourselves, as we really are, we're likely to be a whole hell of a lot happier. And there's 3 ways that researchers recommend practicing self-acceptance. 1, be as kind to, this gets a little psychobabbly, but deal with it. Listen, be as kind to yourself as you are to other people. See your mistakes as opportunities to learn and notice things you do well, however small they are. Stop criticizing yourself. I see my mistakes. Sometimes I let my mistakes bury me. I'm embarrassed by my mistakes. Probably more than anybody else I am. I'm the one who is the hardest critic on myself. So note how I get when I forget to turn up the mic. I hate that. It's an imperfection in what I'm supposed to be doing. Leslie Holker in the chat room says, in my life, being happy and successful was all about falling in love and having children. I've been blessed by 2 amazing men, my late husband and Andy, and beautiful children and adults. Niall Peterson, I don't know where I got that. I saw Sanderson, then it skipped to Niall Parkinson. Sanderson, Parkinson together is Peterson, whatever. That's what my eyes did to me. Self-acceptance, says Niall, is exactly the point. If happiness can possibly be defined as through a definition and acceptance of self, has nothing to do with love or altruism. Maybe, maybe not. It's almost like, Niall, sometimes I think you're striving to make it more mechanical than it is. I think love is a real emotion. I think happiness comes out of emotion. I think love comes out of emotion. Although there are certain types of love that are the things that we do that go far beyond emotion. Because emotional love is wishy-washy. It goes up and down. When you love out of an act of will, it's something different. I will love this person, and here are the things I will do to maintain this. So everything is work. Niall says happiness is a horrible word because it's self-focused. And Leslie said, Niall, I agree. I've always been happy with what I am, who I am. I've never desired to be anything else. And Niall, sometimes you have to be self-focused. If I wasn't self-focused, I wouldn't shower in the morning. And by the end of a few weeks of that, nobody would want to be around me because I'd stink to high heaven. You know what? I'm self-focused. I brush my teeth because I don't want them to fall out. What are the other things I do? I clean the wax out of my ears. Because you know what? I don't want it to clog up in there and cause a problem. Not to be crass or gross, but to illustrate the point, I wipe myself after I take a dump. Why do I do that? Because I want to be clean. That's self-focused. There's a lot of things that we do that are self-focused. Niall says, I think there's a societal pressure to be happy, as if we know what that is. I don't think, I would disagree. I would say I don't think that there is a pressure to be happy. I think that there are so many unhappy people that there are psychologists and people who write about happiness, who speak about happiness. Like me. I'm talking about contentment right now and happiness. Why? Because I saw things that could lead me to discontent if I didn't keep them in check. There are things that are negatives that I see around me, and I choose to be a certain way. Am I positive because I choose to, or do I choose to be positive because I am? I don't know which one it is, but I know I'm a lot more positive than a hell of a lot of people I know. So being kind to yourself, see mistakes as opportunities to learn, ask a trusted friend or a colleague to tell you what your strengths are or what they value about you. I don't like that so much. I don't go to people, well, what do you think my strengths are? Tell me and I'll tell you. It's like, show me yours, I'll show you mine. I'm not into that so much. Spend quiet time with yourself. Tune into how you're feeling, how you're thinking. Try to be at peace with who you are. And I think that's a big thing, being at peace with who we are. Niall says, I'm not saying we should be happy in our filth, but we have to have a definition of what happiness is first. There are, I think, a lot of things that what is love? What is happiness? What is hunger? Oh, we can chemically break those down. What is disappointment? Define disappointment. We can define it. We can give a definition of the word. Why do we feel disappointment? Why do we feel discouragement? Why do we feel depression? Why do we feel unhappy? What's unhappiness? What's anything that we physically, mentally, psychologically, emotionally feel? Is it all emotions? Is it the lack of being an automaton? Leslie says, amen, Scotty. It took my children growing up and leaving the home to find the peace and contentment with myself. Now it's a necessity in my life. Yeah. It's like Bill Cosby said in his old comedy routine back before he was considered to be a rapist and all that. Lost his whole life and his whole career over mistakes he made. But back in one of his comedy routines, he says, when you are a parent of older children, he says, it's no longer, when you're a parent, about meting out justice. It's more about finding quiet. And that's very true when the days are quiet. Niall says, contentment comes from our relationship toward death, and happiness, our relationship toward life. I don't know. When I'm discontented, I don't think, well, I'm going to die now. I must be death. I don't think death can bring discontentment and unhappiness. I don't think that's the source point. What makes me unhappy? I get unhappy and discontent when I find I run into some of those brick walls where I can't provide for my family, or I can't do the things that provide a good environment for my wife to be happy. Her happiness is not, I can't do that for her. She has to do it. But I help create an environment, an atmosphere. What else makes me unhappy? When I make mistakes on things. Client work, and I've screwed it up. Taking out a loan and not being able to pay it back. Inadvertently screwing people, not meaning to deliberately, but I've been at places in my life where I've done things that have hurt people, and I have no way to fix those things. Those things make me unhappy. I lose my contentedness with that. Sarah Yusuf says, contentment is also described as a type of peace and satisfaction. I see that. Another thing here about people who can find contentment and happiness. They focus on long-term contentment. Long-term contentment. That's their focus. Looking at models of evolution, Cornell researchers found that having a positive attitude could be evolutionarily advantageous. They said that finding supports the philosophy of pursuing long-term contentment or life satisfaction rather than attempting to be instantly gratified. For me, contentment would be my own land or my own place, my own house, a place where my children for years to come, decades to come, could call, this is the home I grew up in. Niall, I don't take anything you're saying as anything other than great conversation. So don't think I think negatively at all about what you're saying. I don't have you on right now. You can come on in the captain's cabin. We can discuss some of this. But I'm just responding to you almost conversationally in some of these. Don't worry about that part. I don't think anything negative at all about what you're saying. There's this philosophy of pursuing long-term contentment or life satisfaction rather than attempting to be instantly gratified. I want to build something that is lasting. That brings contentment. Although, I'm sorry, I'll go against the odds. I'll go against the nomenclature. I'll say if $10 million was plopped in my lap today, I'd probably work my way into some contented situations very quickly. I'd always said, the long shot. If I ever won the lottery, how many times have we said that? If I ever won the lottery, I'd build a beautiful home for my family on some acreage. I'd have a compound. I might build a little castle, a little stone manor house type of thing. There's several companies I would create, things that I would do. I'm not so altruistic as to say my goal in winning the lottery is to put people to work as my nose grows. No, my goal, or not even a goal, my desire to win the lottery would be totally selfish. So I wouldn't have to work hard. However that goes. Fiddler on the Roof. If I were a very wealthy man. Yeah, exactly. Andrea Molnix knows this one intimately. She and her husband at the time, her late husband, they owned some property that we were working on trying to buy on contract for deed. And we wanted to put up a theater out there on that 40 acres. We were going to build the 1599 version of Shakespeare's Globe Theater. I'd build that theater, Andrea, probably on different land now, obviously, since neither of us are on that land anymore. I do things like that. Do you imagine you could put a ton of people to work building a theater like that? You could entertain people. And that was an active thing that was going for us, by the way. It wasn't just now I want to buy this land so I can build a theater. No, we were working on that. We actually had investors that came. We had one investor that wanted to fund the whole thing to the tune of like $42 million. But he also wanted over 85% of my company to do that. I understand investors need the money. We just felt that the first year, we'd go through the first several months, and if we didn't meet goal on where we were going, if things didn't work right, he'd destroy the whole thing, take it down. Anyway, so we didn't go for it at the time. So in an evolutionary sense, you have to evaluate your life on the basis of more than what happened just now. That thing that happened to me today sucked. Like I told you last night, the story about the stuff Rainey went through last week with some of the people she worked with. That put her in stress and anxiety overload and she walked out because of it. She was basically, fuck y'all, I got better things to do. But it stressed her out. So it's not about evaluating your life on the basis of things that happened just now. Because usually what happens right now is you go hungry. It might indeed be advisable, at least under conditions of scarcity or adversity, to focus on longer-term well-being or contentment over momentary pleasures, and to be less envious of one's neighbors. So, being in a relationship that goes sour, that might be unhappiness. Can't base your contentedness and your goals out of an incident like that, out of a bad thing that happens. Likewise, the same for happy. Happiness doesn't come because of one thing. It doesn't come because of externals. It comes because of what you bring to the externals. So it might be wise to mark happy events more than your unhappy ones. I don't know. Look back at your calendar and see, I did this once just for fun with Rainey a long time ago, and it was a joke. But she goes, what are all the little red dots on the calendar going back the last 6 weeks? I said, oh, those are all the days you denied me sex. I asked and you said no. She looked at it, that's stupid. I go, it's just a joke. I put all those on there today. But, and that's a joke. So try that, guys. Show your wife your sex reject calendar and see where that goes. Do you think it'll get you sex? It's a valuable question to ask. So happiness is about having experiences that are meaningful for you and valuable for you. That's what creates happiness. Embrace all your emotions. The people who are the happiest embrace their emotions. I had a long time I could not embrace my emotions. I remember seeing a therapist a long time ago. I've talked about this. It wasn't because, I was psychotic or anything, but bad marriage breakup, talking to the psychologist, therapist in my building. I was talking to her one day in the atrium. She said, you got to come in. Let's make an appointment. And first one's free, baby. And so we talked, and I talked to her several weeks over the next year. And she would ask me at the beginning, she said, so how does that make you feel? I'm like, Wow. She said, see, you can get in touch with your emotions, but you can't get in touch with the way you feel. Meaning, you can describe your emotions, but you can't tell me how you feel about it. And so it was one of those interesting exchanges. So based on a survey of 2,324 university students in 8 countries, researchers from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem concluded that there's a relationship between happiness and experiencing desired emotions, even when they're unpleasant. Participants who reported experiencing more of the emotions that they wanted to feel, positive or negative, reported greater life satisfaction and fewer depressive symptoms. Happiness is more than simply feeling pleasure and avoiding pain. That's not what happiness is. Happiness is about having experiences that are meaningful and valuable, including emotions that you think are the right ones to have. All emotions can be positive in some contexts and negative in others. So regardless of whether they're pleasant or unpleasant experiences. So the findings of this study showed correlation, but not, and here's, I think, Niall's question, not causation. Suggests it doesn't help bottling up emotions if you want to feel a sense of happiness. So these people have meaning in their lives, the people who have happiness. There's meaning in their lives. You have no meaning, you have no happiness. You have no purpose, you have no happiness. It isn't finding the answer. It isn't finding the answer to life's greatest question. But those who reported the presence of meaning in their lives, rather than search for it, had better physical and mental well-being, according to the University of California, San Diego School of Researchers. When you find more meaning in life, they concluded, you become more contented. Whereas if you don't have purpose in life, you're searching for it unsuccessfully, you're going to feel much more stressed out. What are you doing with your own lives? All of you, think about this for a second. Are you striving to find your meaning, your place, your purpose? Professor Bauer says, he who is not content with what he has would not be content with what he would live to have. Would not be content with what he would live to have. He who is not content with what he has would not be content with what he, are you saying what he would desire to have? What would he give his life to have? Yeah, I can agree with that. If you're not content with what you have now. So meaning in life tends to change with age, doesn't it? I can say this to Professor Bauer, to Dave Potter, to Niall, although the last two are not as old as I am. Professor Bauer's a little bit older than me by a couple of years. We're in the same boat. I'll tell you this, 21-year-olds look at Professor Bauer and I, and even though we're a few years apart, they don't care. We're both fogies. So meaning in life tends to change with your age. The search for it might be intense when individuals are in their 20s and reach its lowest levels at age 60, which was for me almost 2 years ago. After age 60, things begin to change. People retire from their job. That ain't happening with me anytime soon. I'm sorry, I'm probably going to be working until the day I drop over. Unless one of those properties actually sells to DreamWorks Studios or something like that. And excuse me, I can sit back and relax for a little bit. We'll have to see what the next year brings. But I say that every year, don't I? Maybe this year. As the Jews would say at Passover, next year in Jerusalem. So after age 60, things start to change. We start developing health issues. Some of our friends and family begin to drop off the planet. We start searching for the meaning of life again because the meaning we once had has changed a little bit. We have a sense of oneness has to come in. The yogis are onto something. People who believe in the idea that everything in the world is connected and interdependent appear to have a greater life satisfaction than those who don't. According to a study out of the University of Mannheim, looking at data generated by 2 surveys out of nearly 75,000 people in Germany, participants who highly rated their belief in oneness reported significantly greater life satisfaction. It didn't matter whether they belonged to a religion or not. In my free time, I enjoy surfing, capoeira, I don't even know what that is, meditation and yoga. And all of these have been said to lead to experiences that can be described as being at one with life or nature, or just experiencing a state of flow through being immersed in activity, said the study author Laura Mary Edinger-Shans. So oneness beliefs are more than a situation-specific feeling or a mood. They rather seem to represent a general attitude in life. Retirement, Rudy Kessler says. That's what. I don't know what you're referring to. Leslie Hooker says, I'm sorry, Scotty, you deserve the big break. Yes, I do. And it'll happen. I was talking to my agent about that, my literary agent, a couple of weeks ago. I said, you know what I need? I need one of these properties to get picked up. I may only need one of them to say, okay, you know what? Retired, bye. I don't know. I don't want to retire. I always want to do the things I'm doing. I just want the struggle to end. I don't want to have to always struggle my whole life to be able to, you pay the rent one month or the mortgage one month, and you're like, phew, for about a day, and then you go, okay, I got to make sure I got enough coming in next first of the month. And that's the way my life has been since Rainey has known me for basically the last 20 years since I've been freelancing. It's that roller coaster of life. Sometimes it's really good and it comes in phases. Sometimes it's really bad. That comes in phases too. So what I had to decide to do through all of it, through all this line that is the roller coaster, was to keep the one constant line running through the middle of it, and that is to be content with where I am. Not so content that I don't strive for goals, but content with what I have. It's not as hard as it seems. It's just not as easy as it seems either, though. So oneness beliefs are more than situation-specific feelings or moods. The notion of being at one with a divine principle in life, the world, other people, even activities have been discussed in a wide variety of all kinds of scientific research streams from different disciplines out there. And my central goal with this particular presentation, to empirically capture the notion of oneness beliefs as a time-invariant individual character trait, analyze its consequences. The results of 2 large-scale empirical studies out there using non-student samples reveal that oneness beliefs scale has good psychometric properties, and it correlates with related variables, whereby being clearly discriminable from them. So intradividual, talking about interdivisuality, intra-individuality comparisons of 2 repeated measurements of oneness beliefs show a high correlation that is an indicator for the time invariance and stability of personality factor. The hypothesized positive effect of oneness beliefs on life satisfaction can be confirmed by applying all these cross-lagged regressions to test for the directionality of the efforts. So, results reveal the significantly positive effect of oneness beliefs on life satisfaction, even rendering the effect of some religious affiliations insignificant or negative. So there's so many things. And there's something I don't even want to get into. Misunderstood ingredients for damaging gut bacteria. That can affect all of this. We're going to get out of that right away. So we've only got a few minutes left here for the radio audience. But I was trying to see what Matthew Sainsbury is saying. That would be extraterrestrials. I don't know what you're talking about over there. Leslie Hoker says, that's too much stress, Scotty. It is. Life is stressful. What is it in the life of Brian? Life's a piece of shit when you think of it. I don't remember all the words. If you're chewing on life's gristle, well, pucker up and whistle. And then all your troubles go away. Oh, always look on the bright side of life. I can't whistle or I'd whistle. I've never been able to whistle right. So, I just want to hear the ding on the show. I hope you don't have it on silent. I'm not sure what Doug Stack sent me a message. Not sure what you meant there, Doug. I missed your meaning, but that's okay. So this whole thing of being content, of being happy, I think happy is not an emotion. It's not a, how would I say this? Happiness is a result of things that you cognitively do to create it. Niall asks, what is happiness? I think happiness is satisfaction. Happiness is contentment. Contentment is happiness. Those are the things that come. It's like saying, I have succeeded at this thing that I've worked hard to do, or I've created something, or I've done this or that. And I get the happiness out of that because I have achieving something creative for me. And so therefore, and that creates happiness in me. Happiness in me comes from being content with where I am and helping those around me be content with where they are. Do you know half of my discontentedness is based on like my kids bickering and fighting? Drives me insane. Every day, at least once a day, I say, can't we all just be happy and enjoy our time together while we have it? Let's be happy. Let's be excited. Let's be joyful. Let's enjoy the things we're doing and enjoy each other. So anyway, I think that's a necessary step to happiness, which I think you can link hand in hand with contentedness. And contentedness is simply be content with what you have and where you are. Because not being content and being unhappy isn't going to make it any better. So it's something we produce out of ourselves, I believe. So there you go. I'm missing part of conversations, I think. There's no direct root of the word happy, just as there's no root for the word God. It's okay. Don't have to have it. We all know what it means. There doesn't have to be a root for it. It means we create those things. It's that easy. We create it. It's like I saw the little Stickman cartoon. It shows one guy frowning and the other guy's smiling and he's holding a jar that says happiness. And the other guy frowning says, I've been looking for that all my life. Where did you find that? The guy with the jar says, I made it myself. You don't find it. It doesn't come from anywhere else. You create it. Niall, you're an artist. Your art doesn't exist without creating it. You have to create that. Other people can create their own stuff. You create yours. That becomes your art. Same thing with your happiness. Nobody else can create your happiness. You create it. You make it happen. For our radio audience, I'm sorry to say we have to go. Join us over on YouTube for the Captain's Cabin. But until then, you know what? Live long and prosper. Stick around for the Captain's Cabin.
Join us every weeknight at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern. The Intrepid Radio Program, a Scotty Roberts Productions broadcast.
Are you looking for a really awesome and amazing graphic designer? How about an illustrator or a photographer? This is Rainey Roberts, and I wanted to tell you how you can get my designer, illustrator husband, Scotty Roberts, to work for you on your project. Do you have an awesome self-published book but no cover, or even worse, a cover that really sucks? Do you need a kick-ass logo for your company or some f***ing awesome graphic designs for your ads or website? Then get in touch with my husband for the best f***ing awesome kick-ass design and illustration. He knows his stuff, and he's been at this for more years than I've been alive. Go to ScottAllenRoberts.com. That's Scott with 2 T's, ALANROBERTS.com to take a look at his online portfolio of work, or call 651-468-8115. Now go out and kick some ass with some kick-ass graphic design.
Hire my dad so he can take me to Disneyland.
I need me tricorn hat. That's what I need. Or I need the big floppy hat like Captain Barbossa had in Pirates of the Caribbean. You just see him standing on the deck of the ship. Remember when he would laugh? They were in the big whirlpool, and he tips his head back and goes, ha 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 ha, and he had this big bellowing laughter. So Niall says your love with your kids is obvious, but I wouldn't describe it as being happy. Contentment is the best word I get. I'm happy. I find contentment there, and I find happiness there. I don't think there's anything wrong. It's like you've got like some kind of mental block on happiness. You don't want to admit that it exists, and therefore you will try to find every answer to discredit the word happiness. That's what it seems like. I'm happy with my family, my wife, my kids, and I'm content. Does that mean I don't want better for them and just keep striving to do better? No. I would call what I have with my kids happiness and contentment, but with still a hell of a lot to learn and a lot to keep going on. Good night, Andrea, by the way, and good night, Leslie. Looks like you're both taking off. So glad you were both here tonight. Society needs to bring back the tricorn. I am a believer, Ryan Gale. I think we all need tricorn hats. I'd like to get one. So a nice one, not a felt one. I want one that's genuine. Oh, you're not gone. Okay. You were just saying goodnight to Leslie. Okay. Good to still have you here, Andrea. So there's Uncle Dave. Let's add him to the stream right away. You know why? Because I can. And let me turn off the big banner there.
Howdy, howdy.
Hey, Uncle Dave. What's going on?
Just sitting at home being happy.
Are you happy?
I'm happy. I'm happy all the time, man.
What makes you happy? What's the difference between happiness and contentment?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know. I think that, so I try and live my life in service to others, doing for other people. And
but what if there's a day you go,
that brings
I'm
great
so tired
joy
of
to me.
doing
And
that.
so I just kind of, I think if you're doing that and you have love in your heart, you have happiness.
Okay.
It breeds happiness.
What if you don't? What if you're tired of doing stuff for other people and you're going, it's all
Then
about
take a me
loving
day.
myself?
Then I take a me day. Me days are important,
Well, yeah.
you know?
Well, a me day. I
And
could use a
back-
me year.
Back when I was married or involved with other people, you know, I would have you days. I'd say, hey, today's all about you. What do we want to do to make your life better? Do you do that for Rainey?
Yes, I do. Almost every
Crickets,
day.
crickets.
I ask Rainey.
No, I
almost
mean, where
every
you
day.
just
I
the
do.
whole
I
day
ask
is
her-
about her. Like
I say,
from dawn until
that's almost
bedtime, the whole day
impossible.
is about her.
That's almost impossible to do right now.
No,
But
it's
I
not.
do
The kids
approach
are
her
old enough
every-
to take care of
Oh, yeah,
themselves.
it
There are
is.
days.
Don't tell me it's
There
not.
are days when you could just say to the kids, "Hey, you're on your own. I'm taking
Hey,
care of your
Dave,
mom all day
You know
long."
what? Go out and find a wife and get married and be happy. Yeah, that's easy. Just go do it.
Then they're
That's what
done.
you just told me. You know,
No, that's
it's
not what I said.
it's
I'm
not
just
all that
saying.
easy.
I'm saying you have to every once in a while. You have to take a day for Rainey and just make
Right.
it all about her
Oh, I agree with
all
that.
day long.
But that's nearly impossible because Rainey doesn't like to be in those situations where everything's focused on her and she's got nothing else. She's
Because she
always
lives her life
busy.
in service to others. She's always trying to
Well,
do for others. She's
Now,
the
I
same
think
as I
there's
am.
a difference in living your life in service to others and feeling you are obligated to live your life in service to others. I think there are differences there. Rainey can sometimes be a very discontented person. Where does that discontent come from? Because she's never got nothing she has to do. And that's why every day I will go to her and I say, what can I do for you today? It's almost like what I need to be able to do is be such an intimate study of my wife is to say, oh, you don't have to do that. You know why? Because I already did that. But it all depends on what it is. There's things when we were doing this move, there were points where I didn't want to touch a box and move it and set it down for fear I was putting it in the wrong place and I would get reprimanded. And so I had to wait for Rainey to tell me, where do you want this? Now, where do you want this? Where do you want this? She thinks it's a lot easier and simpler than that. It's not. All the kids would gather around me and they were like, where do we put this, Dad? I said, I don't know. Don't ask me. And they said, well, who should ask Mom? I'm not going to ask Mom. She'll bite my head off. She'll say, I already told you. Why don't you remember? And they say, Dad, you go ask Mom. I said, I ain't asking Mom. You ask Mom. And so we wait, and then we kind of, you pick the box up and you're kind of heading in a direction. You go, and she'll go, other corner. Oh, okay. There we go. Doing for Rainey is sometimes incredibly difficult because Rainey is the kind of person that she likes her self-sufficiency. all while still being married and being given to the other person, but still isn't always grasping the interdependency with each other. So Rainey keeps doing for herself. I'm like, hey, can I take some of that, please? I can help with that. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, you can. Here, I'll leave it all for you. I said, no, I'll help you so we can hang out. I want to go take a nap. You go do it. I didn't want to do it. So, there you go. It's the ins
Hey,
and outs.
Niall.
Hey, Dave.
Marriage and being
Hey,
happy.
Scotty. Sorry,
Hey,
Scotty.
Niall, how you doing?
Continue. How are you?
How's
great to see you
ironing
guys.
today?
Good, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
And I'm with what Scotty said earlier. I saw your comment about the Royals,
Oh God.
and I
I
just see that as conversation. I don't see that as an attack or anything like that.
Well, I
and-
hope. Thank you,
and-
Dave.
and-
because
I accept that because you're Irish. I have lots of Irish friends. Okay, I know how the Irish feel about the Royals. I can't help it. I'm still a Royalist. It would be great if they would just let go of Northern Ireland and Ireland could be free, or Ireland could take the Scottish route and be a separate part of Great Britain, but their own thing. That'd be groovy. But I get it. I understand where the Irish fall on that. That's all cool. But keep in mind, we were just as angry at Cromwell as you are. So
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, let's just all blame it on Cromwell. He was an ass. Okay.
Yeah. I think the only thing I will say about this, I love you guys, right? And I can be argumentative.
That's okay.
times.
What? Niall?
Say it ain't so.
But it's not. It doesn't come out of a void, And
Right.
I have my reasons.
I don't see you as argumentative.
I don't
see you
either.
as contrarian, but
Yes. I will say sometimes, Niall, as much as I love your input, there's times I see you say something, I'm like, oh, fuck, Niall is going to say something that I've got to respond to now.
I will freely admit, and if I was talking to Sarah earlier on the show, hopefully she will join us. I will freely admit I can be a total asshole at times. I can take things out of context. I can get overwhelmed with the content. I said, these people don't understand what the point I'm trying to make. And, I need to be center stage. So,
sure.
And that is a character defect of mine, and it is something that I always try and define myself in terms of apologizing when I need to apologize. So I feel that I need to apologize to Dave and to Scotty for my comments about the monarchy.
No need.
Even though you guys kind of knew where I'm coming from, but I was still an ass about it.
I only accept your apology to do service to you because I don't need the apology, but you might need to give it. And so
Precisely.
I appreciate that. I appreciate
and as do I appreciate the fact of what you're saying, but seriously, I took no offense, and it's you're fine.
Yeah, actually, there's something I wanted to bring up, and it's just in the hour before your show came on, Scotty. I was live on air with another show, totally unrelated to your show, and it was a show related to addiction and sexuality. Okay. And how addiction will affect sexuality and vice versa. And,
sure.
And this is a Christian channel, and they were very hesitant to go into that area. So I felt that I was, I don't know what to say about this, that I could do it in a way that was kind of charming in a way, and without offending anybody.
Didn't come off as creepy.
Didn't come off as creepy.
creepy.
Because the first couple of callers, and this is a show which you have no idea who it is, right? But
right.
This is an addiction show, and an addiction in the broad sense of the term, the psychological kind of psychiatric evaluation of addiction, but more specifically towards drugs rather than alcohol, and also towards abuse. Delicate subjects, tricky subjects.
Sure.
And they have to be handled with some kind of gravitas and also some kind of sensibility, And it was fascinating. These guys know me, and that was directly before I started commenting on your channel about happiness. So just to put a couple of things into context. Of course, the obvious people who were ringing in were people who were extremely sexually abused as children.
Sure.
They blame their addiction on their parents. Talking about happiness, I came into this chat room with you, as an Irishman who was like, happiness.
I'm Irish. I can't be happy.
I didn't see much happiness tonight, And this is also an American channel. It wasn't a European channel.
Sure.
So yeah, I was devastated. I was kind of devastated by it, but I also wanted to make my point that sexuality and addiction is very much intertwined with each other, and if you get over your addiction, your relationship with those around you may change. And I'm not sure whether either of you know an addicted person in your life, or either you ever been addicted. You don't have to answer that, but I'm just saying that I do. And
sure,
it changes everything. It changes all the dynamics of how you manipulate people as regards sexuality and as regards emotions, how you manipulate emotions, how you and this kind of tied into this, and it was a very intense conversation, and I was really into it. And then I came onto this, and I was like, so I want to apologize for coming into that with a preconceived kind of not a preconceived, but already I was rattled by this conversation, because I wanted to give these people the answers that they wanted to have.
Yes.
But I had to tell them that your sex life will never be the same when you're an addict. Your sex life is used, and you will fall in love with people throughout your entire life. So you believe, and they will fall in love with you, and they will, but then you will leave them for your drug of choice, which is drugs or alcohol. And so you have no real sense of self, you have no real sense of happiness, you have no real sense of contentment. But meanwhile, you go through life like a churning tornado, and you destroy everything around you. You destroy everything around you, and you think that I'm going to be happy now. I met the perfect woman. We're going to have a couple of kids, and then all of a sudden you discover that you don't like kids. They annoy you. They irritate you. They're running around. They're diapers, and cost too much money. I'm out of here. Bye. Yeah, I'll just go on, and that's literally how the addict's mind works. It's like you kind of, it sounds horrific, but you kind of manipulate the circumstances that are presented to you as an addict. So it was a very difficult conversation to get through, but it was also very difficult to get through without using curse words and without actually, describing the degradation that you will actually go to achieve your fantasy world of falling in love or being happy with somebody else. So I came directly from that channel to this channel. And I said to Sarah earlier on, I hope she's here now. She was there. I know she's
here. Yes.
Yeah, I said to her,
hey guys,
why do I keep putting myself through this? And she kind of, she's very evasive in her comments. That's why I like her. She's kind of like, oh yeah. She kind of likes me to dig my own grave. So yeah.
Yeah, well, why?
Not our
let
Sarah.
you do the hard work for me. I mean, so why not?
Anyway, that was about the previous thing.
Make your point.
So we can get into happiness now and contentment, but
no,
it's
You know, I listened to you saying that, and I was married to somebody who was an addict. Dave knew her.
Yep.
And she pretty much destroyed the marriage all by herself, and lost her children because of it, and
worked on destroying them.
worked on destroying them. Even now, she still does. My 21-year-old son, my 30-year-old daughters, she still does bullshit to them. And I have never had an addictive personality. That doesn't mean I'm not a foodie. I love to eat. I like to smoke. I've said about smoking, I've said I'm not addicted to cigarettes. I'm not addicted to smoking. I just enjoy cigarettes. And you know, I count them off. Now I smoke 3 to 5 cigarettes a day because I smoke a halfie at a time, leave it in the ashtray. I'll go back to it later. And when I used to smoke almost 2 packs a day. And so addictive, I don't like to drink too much. I love drinking. I mean, ask Dave that one too. He's seen me 2 sheeps to the wind. I think that was my quote.
2 sheeps. Yep.
I said, we were doing a reenacting where we were playing Scots in history, his 16th century. And we were at an encampment all night, doing all in costume, living the history. And I was hammered out of my mind and on scotch. And I think Dave, he was the provost that night.
Provost Marshal, yes, I was.
And he says, I don't know, it was something like, well, Scotty, what have we here then? You know? And I looked at him and I said, Dave, I am 2 sheeps to the wind. And he said, okay, I think you've had enough. But anyway, all of that aside.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely.
My addictive personality is very limited. I'm not an addictive person.
Well, you say that, but as I was trying to allude to in the comments, given a different set of circumstances, say you weren't married again, Scotty, and you didn't have any more kids.
Yeah.
I would hesitate only slightly.
I would be horribly sexually addicted to something.
You would be addicted to, you would probably be a really screwed up individual.
Yeah.
Which is something that I've discussed at length with a great friend of mine from Tennessee. And it's something that I believe that so happiness is surrounds circumstance, you know, that we should be grateful for. I think contentment is a better word than happiness because happiness has no real root.
I see them as interchangeable. So
yeah. So most men who have gone through a marriage breakdown as traumatic as yours was, and then had a second chance, and then with your health conditions and everything, you know, happiness is like you kind of grab onto it with both hands. It's like it gives you no new zest for life. But then, you know, then there are certain people, and this is the point I was trying to make in the chat room. There are certain people like myself who, you know, you get to the stage where you think that I made a mistake by all my escapades into happiness.
Good night, Rudy.
Yeah. Because they always ended in failure because I was way too selfish and self-absorbed to have the responsibility of children. I thought I did. I liked the fantasy of it. I liked the idea of it. But
do you have children?
Reality,
do you have children? Okay, I thought you did.
Yes, so. I have 2. And they're 25 and 24.
Okay.
And but I always liked the idea of that sense of happiness, and this is what is meant to be. You know, you come from a religious background, Scotty.
Yeah.
You understand what that means, and I come from a
Sure.
religious background. You know, it's a very powerful feeling. You know, it's like
Yeah,
this
it
is
is.
what is meant to happen. You know,
And the prof does, and I do. And
Yes,
Sarah,
yes,
do you come from a religious background?
Of a sort.
Moderately. I mean, I have some conservative beliefs, but I mean, I wouldn't consider myself, you know.
Okay, and now, just out of curiosity, how much of us have run away from our background? How many of us have run away from our background, our religious background?
Oh,
Scotty has, the prof has. Niall, are you still, or have you run away from yours as well?
Well, of course I do. I was talking to Sarah earlier on. I'm glad that she's here because I was talking to her about dreams. There is a price to pay for running away from your background.
right.
Yeah.
So if I can just interject before now goes on further.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
I know,
Yeah.
yeah. And you haven't even heard from the professor yet, so you know.
Bail us out on our psychoanalysis of you.
Thanks for taking the
Right.
early shot there,
not-
Niall. I
not
appreciate
just
it.
on me, but on the whole addiction issue.
You took
Yes.
a shot the last
Would
time.
you-
You know.
Yeah, on the whole addiction issue. I mean, would you consider that addiction is sort of like a form of self medication to address another issue?
Mm-mm.
You're trying to self-treat.
No.
You know, where there is something that's
See,
lacking.
in my
in
opinion,
your
I'm
life, or-
curious.
I
to know
think
what-
that's the reaction to the symptom, but that's the real issue is what is causing the addiction. So
Well, I don't know if
an addiction is a predilection for something, a bias towards it, a preference. You get some stimulation out of it, probably a dopamine, maybe a serotonin rush.
Right. So what is
But-
the stimulation covering? You know,
Well,
it is a
that-
symptom.
Well, so
that is the real
genetically, they
question.
have
That's
found-
my point. Is at the
genetically,
addiction.
they have found that there is a gene that if it's ticked on, you will be addicted to something. You will have
Right.
addiction issues. And if it's ticked off, you won't.
Right.
And then there's also the issue of using the word addiction. I, for one, have many addictions. A lot of them have to do with sound and music and food. I am addicted to all of those things in many different ways.
Well, I don't
So-
like to go a day without food, so maybe that's in.
Well, yeah, there you go. I think we all kind of have those same things. But my point is, what is the definition of addiction? Is it always used in a negative connotation, or is it really a more of the nature and habit of the way that we do things, but
Well,
we just don't label it correctly? You
and
know,
he was addicted to football. You know, he could not give up a single game on Sunday and had to watch it. And when football season was over, he didn't know what to do with himself for the next, 8 months.
couldn't
why
you
you
make
look
the
at
argument
that
that
in
people
old
like
days.
Newton? Can't you make the argument that people like Newton and Alexander Graham Bell and all of these people who just did nothing but do what they did, they were so addicted to that experience and that knowledge,
And we like to put the
that-
positive spin on it and say they were driven, they were passionate.
Right.
We never call them addicted.
but
I think-
Well,
addicted could be
you
used.
have an addiction, Scotty. I can name it.
What?
First of all, who's in the chat room right now? Is Rainey on?
No?
You are addicted to crazy women. Batshit crazy women.
Don't worry.
No, they're addicted to me.
I got that. Don't worry. I've saved that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to take any offense to that.
I just don't know it until it comes out.
I think
I look at
Speaking
all of
of-
your
in the
exes
room.
and I'm like,
Yeah.
No, but I mean, speaking
Sarah,
of
go ahead.
Rainey,
Yeah.
because I know you were saying, you want to help her, but it's like, trying to back off. She is trying to preempt you in a way, and in looking 5 steps ahead. It's like, okay, if you say, okay, I want to help you pack, or I want to help you pack, or help you move some boxes. At some point in the move, and I can pretty much almost 99% guarantee it. Like, say one of your kids says, "Mom, where's my hairbrush? Which box is it in?" And then she has to be the one to have the answer. So she has to know where everything is at. It's a control issue. It's controlling the chaos.
She,
So-
she does
what
have
she
a.
said. Control is her number one addiction. She
I think
wants,
so.
she needs to be in control of everything.
I think
Right.
so. She likes to be in
I
control.
mean,
of
whether
what's
it's
going
stemmed
on.
through, anxiety or, trying to minimize the amount of, anxiety in the house or how it affects her and her mental state, how, if the kids get upset, they're in an upset mental state, it's a cascade effect, especially,
It
with
does.
with mom.
No, it stems back to her childhood.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all together. I mean,
No, I'm saying knowing the whole situation without explaining the whole situation, it
Right.
stems back to her childhood and not having control. There were no parental control around her. She had to be an adult very young.
She basically raised her
Siblings.
her sister and brother are 10 and 11 years younger than she is. So when Rainey was in high school, she was kind of forced into a situation where she had to be their parent.
right.
And she lived in a house. Now, it was 2 doors down from her grandmother's house out on the lake, which would sound like an idyllic setting for people. It was one of the cabins out at the lake, but that bound her life up for several years. And she had to be the mom and the dad to these 2 kids. And I think that's why they're all so very close today. But I also see that is something that led Rainey into an adulthood then of always needing to know what's in control. Being in control. I'd go get her now, but she's upstairs in bed already. Amanda over in the chat room. Otherwise, I'd go get her. I think it'd be interesting to talk to her. I should just go check. I'll go check in a second. Well, and I'll let you guys talk, and I'll see if we can haul her down here. But
Well, I mean, if she's resting, just let her rest.
She might feel ambushed, Scotty.
and she might. Rainey's a pretty good. Dave knows this about her, and I keep saying that about Dave because he's so close to my family. But Rainey doesn't ever really have a problem with feeling put upon. Like in a situation like that, she always seems ready. Rainey is a person that generally
is waiting for the right question at the right time or for the right moment.
And I can say she's the kind of person, because we joke about this and it becomes evident sometimes, she's the kind of person who in a public setting would sometimes, pull the shirt up and go, "Yep, those are my boobs, folks." And that's her personality, meaning she has that ability to, I don't hide things. I'm who I am. And if you don't like it, fuck off. And that's kind of the way Rainey is. So Dave laughs. You had to take off his glasses on that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like a coping mechanism.
Yes,
being able
maybe
to
a bit of it.
Take whatever is going to come, and just to be you're forced to deal with it, and then how she deals with it is how.
Would it be safe to say that may be an addiction of hers?
Control.
Yeah.
Or showing.
I agree with that. I think it is.
Yeah.
But I think it stems from her youth, and I think that she's found that she needs to be in control of the situation. That's how she keeps everything moving forward in her eyes.
Rainey is a meticulous planner. She doesn't like to do anything that is not planned. If I've got a trip, let's say a trip, I want to go. I had mentioned earlier in the year we wanted to try to do a trip to Ticonderoga, New York, to see the recreation of the Star Trek original series sets. And she's like, when she heard me say that on the radio, she said, after the radio show, she was like, "So when is this? And what is it going to be? How much is it going to cost? What day are we going? Have you lined up who is going to watch our kids while we go do that? Are we bringing the kids with us? Have you figured out the cost of hotel? Did you know that gas prices right now are $4.89 a gallon at the time? And do you know how much that's going to cost us? Do we rent a car? Do you think our car is going to make it? Have you looked into making sure we have a rental car for that weekend?" And on and on and on and on and on it went.
And
I'm like,
that was one conversation.
That was one
one sentence.
That's
Yeah.
one female
And
conversation.
I was kind of like, my response was, we'll figure it out.
Well,
How
you
do
should have
think
come
that
back
went
and said something like, if you know that if I do all of what you just said, I'm going to screw it up. So I'll take your lead.
You take the
You
there's many
just,
times-
I'm right behind you. Just
I
show
will
me,
tell you.
point me, make me do what it is that I need to do.
I'll
Because
tell you, there are times where I have said to Rainey, you know what? Why don't you just handle it? Because, sometimes it's in exasperation less than it is. I'm like, you know what? You do it because I'm just going to fuck it up, obviously. So you got it. Take care. And sometimes it's not a negative. Sometimes it's like, you know what? I'm not even going to do that. You do that. You plan that. And no, I want you to plan it for me. How come you never take me on a date?
It just goes to show, she's very focus driven, and
Yes.
you and Rainey both have different personalities.
We do.
That she, they said, okay, I want to do this, and then you said, okay, this is how it's going to happen. I know what our current situation is, and said, if you want to do this, then how do I make this happen? How do I do this for you? For you, so you do maximize your time and your enjoyment, and making sure the effort goes into it, and putting your needs first.
This is slightly off colored, but today I said, wow, I said, my body is absolutely killing me right now. I said, my back is all out, not out, but it's sore from the last couple of weeks of moving. My hips and my lower back are out. And I said, man, I could use a hot tub and a massage. I said, you want to give me a massage today? And she said, no. And I said, why not? And she said, well, that didn't come first. Here's where it gets slightly off color.
Tell her I'll pay for it.
I said, do you want to give me a massage today? And she said, no. I said, blowjob? And she went, no. And I said, okay. I said, so, and I'm joking.
That'll do it.
Yes.
I think we've gone far enough.
Deflated. Yeah. Deflated after that. Yeah.
I said, which one's higher on your priority list, by the way? Because I'm a guy and I think like a guy. But I said, if nothing else, I said, maybe, she goes, why don't you try a hot bath with some Epsom salts? I said, will you give me a massage then? And she said, no. And I said, how about no? She said, so, you turn it into a bit of comedy.
Scotty, you should have just led with the sandwich and stay there.
Yeah.
There it is.
One of the best things, one of the best jokes I've ever heard is kind of along the same lines of what you're just talking about the ultimate definition of a Freudian slip with your significant other, and when you come down in the morning and the kids are running around, they're looking for cereal and they're breaking everything and they're kicking the dog and kicking the cat, and your beautiful wife comes over to you and she's sitting across the center aisle of the kitchen unit, and you're sitting on stools and you're gazing into each other's eyes, and she says to you, darling, would you mind passing the milk? And instead of saying, yes, of course, darling, you say, you fucking bitch, you ruined my life. That's the definition of a Freudian slip.
Oh, Freudian slip.
That's been around a while. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much somewhere in the middle of all that is happiness and contentment and frustration.
I'm sure you were making a point.
So
which brings us full circle to our original question.
In fact, and that's exactly what I'd like to pipe in and pontificate on, which is the whole concept of contentment.
Okay,
so,
while you do that, I'm going to run down and go to the store and wash the car, and I'll be back.
I will be done in less than 3 minutes. Start the timer.
Okay. Go.
So the whole concept of contentment, again, it goes back to understanding the linguistics, the etymology, what is it, how it's being used, all that good stuff. So at the bottom level, there seems to be a general consensus when people use the word. It is that they feel you can use, and this is how you try to figure out what's going on, is look at the analogous or words that are synonyms to it, right? So another word you could use for being content is being fulfilled, right? You have a sense of fulfillment. So to me, those two kind of are the same. When you think about how that feeling feels, it's when
Meaning.
what's that?
Having meaning, feeling fulfilled.
Well, the meaning of the feeling. I mean, the feeling is what's important, because it's like the word happiness. It's like the word fair, the word value, ethics, morals. All of these words are individual perceptions of something. There is no common. Fair is not going to be fair for everybody all the time. Not everybody's going to see value in one thing, and others will see great value in something.
Sure.
The dichotomy of the use of these words and the way that they are focused and they're crafted in the narrative is the thing that is a separate rabbit hole. I need to claim back the last 15 seconds of my clock, please. Somebody got me squirreled, and that's not where I was going.
So chair, give me back my 15 seconds.
I'd like 15 seconds back, please. So the point is that
while you're doing that, Professor, I'm not going to interrupt you, but I would just say that contentment is the ultimate word, because fulfillment still signifies,
or being fulfilled, not just fulfillment,
or even being fulfilled.
Right. Still, to me, they're analogous.
I find meaningfulness.
They have same. They both have the feeling that I think of when I think of those words. They are very similar to me. Okay. When I'm content, I'm fulfilled in something.
I understand that. But I would say that contentment is the ultimate word, because contentment between, say, two people signifies a complete and utter acceptance of the now and the is and the was. So,
and
in other words,
you're talking about a situation between two people. I'm just talking about within oneself. There's nobody else.
It has to start there. But I would say
you have to start with the contentment within oneself.
And then there's all the other. I misunderstood. I presumed you were talking in general.
No. Well, I'm just talking that word contentment, as you say. You can use that as the key focus of the thought stream. So when I think of contentment, the contentment I now experience more and more of, and as I think back of all the times that I have ever experienced that I would feel like, yeah, I was content then, or that moment was a moment of contentment. I was contented in the period of time or in the circumstances. I can think of all those things, but one of the things that I now understand more at the core of what the word and the expression is the contentment within oneself. And as Confucius and Socrates and a lot of various minds across time have said that if you're not, and I put this in the chat, one who is not content with what he has may not be content with what he wants. Okay. Mm-hmm. And that's just something that happens and you don't know until you do.
Having is not so much fun as wanting. Yeah.
Right. But Socrates' point was to know oneself is to be content. You can't be content until you know yourself, because the things that you feel contented with or fulfilled or harmonious with, those things, that expression and that feeling is something that applies to anything that you could put in being content. But if you know yourself, then you know what those things are that make you content, and not abstract things that have been adhered to and taped over your cranium and over your eyes.
Absolutely.
And ears.
But on the other hand,
3 minutes, I'm done.
That's a great
3.5, but you're good.
That's a great philosophical way to look at it, but it's only from one point of view. Contentment comes from, actually, in my opinion, going through great despair, self-destruction, a complete train wreck of a life for the most part, and still having somebody out there and somebody within and this is one area where I've never really explained my life. Scotty's been very open about his life, but I never have. At some stage, I probably will. But there are people in my life who have stayed with me throughout all of that. When I told all of them to take a hike, who have continued to insist upon being part of my life. And when they are part of my life, I have that sense of contentment. Okay. It's like, it's not fulfillment. It's not, because you gave me this, I'm giving you this, and this is, we've reached some kind of, I said something in the chat room really wrong. I think it was profound, but maybe it wasn't. I said contentment is closer to the feeling of death than it is, and happiness is closer to the feeling of life. Contentment is pretty much coming to terms with who you are, as you said, Robert. It's coming to terms with who you are and why you're here, and also your demons. It's also coming to terms with your demons, even though they're tormenting you still, but you understand their names now, and you understand what they look like.
You're describing knowing yourself.
Yes, precisely.
Very much.
So contentment can surprise you. My contentment has come from people who I've hurt immeasurably, and who have just insisted on staying in my life, through one way or another, friends on Facebook, friends, fuck you, throw away the phone, I never want to hear from you again. And, and there is a karmic kind of evolution to those kind of people. These are very special people, right? And not because I'm special, because they're special, Sure. And it's not, and there's also something that maybe there's a sense of fulfillment that they want from me. And some of these are ex-partners, by the way. So it's not complicated at all now, because I'm like totally out of the loop. So it's not complicated at all. It's just like, I'm getting to know this person for the first time. And they were like, Niall, why didn't you say that to me back then? Because I just wanted to have sex back then,
Yeah.
So
there's truth to that.
And so there's a certain amount of contentment that comes with that kind of rubbing away of the years, rubbing away when it comes to personal relationships, and that only comes with the closeness to death, or the closeness to a kind of awareness of death.
I think what you're describing is more getting to a place where you're having a self-examination of your life, and that is another amazing concept that is lost and needs to be regained in bucket loads. But when you have that self-examination in the search, exploration, and discovery of yourself, then you find all these little things, the good things, the bad things, the scars, the long hanging stuff, the things that fascinate your curiosity and ignite your imagination and send you on visual trips of manifestation, which is the normal process that anyone and everyone can do, and it's real. But the thing is that knowing oneself, one of the key things that, in my experience, going down that path, is you'll find that when you learn as much as you can about yourself, you got to sans all the crap. You got to take all the wrappers off, all the stuff that people have put on, and situations and yourself that you've heaped on yourself, and look at the real core of what is it that makes you, what drives you, what is something that makes you want to go in motion and apply energy through thought. And then all of the magic that happens in the mind as you think about those thoughts, and those you create something.
Those are very fundamental questions. And you don't, again, there's an assumption that you have to create something. I'm an artist. At the moment, I'm struggling because I'm very good at the kind of art that I create, right? I create the art that you can't see, basically. I create the art that is shivering in the corner of a darkened room. You can't see it, right? There's sketches that you can't, I don't do rabbits, I don't do sunflowers, I don't do donkeys, I don't do horse and carts, I don't do cottages. I do the dark
so
stuff.
what is that as far as that expression, that art that you create? When you think of the word creation or creating something, I mean, we create our consciousness every millisecond that we're aware of our consciousness.
I think it's a
I'm
representation.
talking about from a very, very fundamental level.
Yeah, it's a representation. It's a representation.
Okay, well, that's an expression of that creation, right?
Yeah, it's a representation
that you have within you.
Yeah.
So to me, I'm working on all kinds of music and voiceover work, and I'm having so much, it's a lot of work, but I'm having so much fun with it. And listening to that creation, I've been doing this stuff for 25 years, and doing it again and doing it fresh is like, whoa, I'm having an experience of not only being content, but being fulfilled, being motivated. It's sparking my curiosity, which is fueling my imagination. And I'm like going on this really cool, creative experience with my energy, with my mind. And I'm experiencing, that's why I wanted to say something about this, is because I'm experiencing right now what I'm talking about and what we're talking about, which is why it's easy for me to explain it. And I did get it under 3 minutes. I had 30 seconds. It was supposed to be added back to the clock. So anyway,
Sarah, anything to add? You have to have something to add here, Sarah.
Well, I mean, for me, I think, at least from the not clinical definition, but from what I understand of contentment is that it's a type of personal satisfaction. Because I mean, contentment is it's not something that you're all in, that you have or you not have. Because I mean, I'm content in like certain aspects of my life, and there's other areas that I'm not content in.
Sure.
So I mean, like my spiritual life, I'm content with that, or I'm not content with my my work life, or relationships, or whatever else people have going on. So, but I mean, contentment, it seems that and you guys are talking about reaching a certain point of maturity, a certain age, and again, it goes back to what you were discussing earlier about knowing yourself, and I think contentment really does have a tie in with self-identity. So
Amen.
you know what you're capable of. You said, okay, I'm able to do this. I'm able to do that. I know where my limits are, where the sky's the limit. What I can and cannot do. Because coming from as you grow old, I mean, consider how your mind has changed as you were younger in your 20s or 30s or 40s, compared to where you are now. There's big changes in thinking psychologically. I mean, most of the time you guys do think in your
choose your words wisely there. You're tiptoeing in.
You guys you're using this word, you guys.
You're outnumbered right now.
I know the Americans use this word for both sexes.
Well, I can use guys because I have the extra X chromosome. So
there you go.
Yeah.
All right, just let it rip. Let us have it. We need it.
No, but I mean, like, I'm saying maturity wise, there's a sort of mental maturity that comes with when you're
With time.
coming with contentment, with knowing yourself, because you go through those ages and phases, and you kind of figure out what you are, what you can and can't do, which leads to, okay, I'm satisfied. I'm satisfied with what I'm able to do. Like Scotty, I'm sure he gets contentment from doing his artwork or being here, hopefully.
From being here. Doing
from
this.
being here. It's a type of that he's satisfied. I mean, we explore different topics and go in many different rabbit holes, and he's fine with it. Assuming he's fine with it. So that's a type of contentment. Contentment with one aspect of the
He's
vast.
also he's also very straight, and I'm going to ask you about this as well, Dave. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Dave. Yeah, you're a very straight shooter, right? And so is Scotty, right? That's one thing that I love about both of you. You're very honest about your family life. You were speaking earlier on about Rainey, Dave. I nearly fell off the chair how honest you were about her, but you didn't say it in a nasty way. You were just the way she is. You remember the conversation earlier on?
Yeah.
And Scotty was like, "Yeah, you're right," and I was like, "That honesty is just really special."
So I've known both Rainey and Scotty since before they knew each other.
Yeah, I mean that's that sense of, and you can say this to relative strangers, even though Professor Bauer and myself have been around for a little while now, not as long as you two guys, and you can kind of just say this, and you just kind of come out with it, and it's like there's no repression there. There's nothing. Oh, don't say this about this. Don't say this about this.
I blame that on the Renaissance Festival.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no governor on my mouth. It's thought and mouth.
And in fact, that's why I love to see Sarah on. Is because even though I can't see her face, obviously, but that's her choice, and that's.
If I ever see a pink S or a pink circle with an S in it walking down the street, I'm going.
I know her.
Yeah. And it's like. You have to understand that it's like a fantastic experience for someone like me who was repressed in so much aspects of his life. I was talking to Sarah earlier offline, not before the show, about dreams. I've always suffered like excruciating dreams throughout my entire life. Like every day, every night is just like the head on the pillow, and it's like this epic kind of experience of. I suppose the themes are the same, but the faces are different. I don't recognize any faces. Like last night, I was in prison, and some guy came in, and I was shoved in because I was selling drugs on a street corner to some kids, and I'm like, what? I never took drugs in my life. But all of a sudden, I was like arrested and put into prison, and it was like a dungeon, and all of a sudden there was like a guy who looked like a Mexican. He said, "Oh, you want to come to? We're going to take." Yeah.
Okay, you're not allowed to watch Midnight Express late at night anymore.
Yeah, exactly. This is every night, and this is that's why.
Have you read anything about some of the dream studies and like DreamWorks and how to interpret some of that?
Of course.
And do you have any interpretation of why you're having these dreams? Are you being able to sort through them?
Of course. Yeah. There's a massive amount of guilt there, and there's a massive amount of guilt and remorse there. But the imaginative frameworks that these dreams contain is just wildly beyond my. There's dialogue. There's conversations between myself and people I've never seen before in my life.
I have very, very lucid dreams. I get that,
and that's why I had to, for my own sanity, introduce lucid dreaming into it. So, for example, if I wake up in the morning and this dream is still in my mind, I have to continue the dream in order to get up, because. Okay, I kind of left off before you asked that question, Robert. Last night I was in a prison, and some guy who looked like a Mexican drug dealer said, "Listen, you're getting laid out today. We're gonna bring you in the truck, and we're gonna go downtown." And I says, "Why?" He says, "We're going to." This is really kind of funny, but he said it very seriously. We have an anti-drug rally downtown, right? And this is a conversation in a dream, right? With this Mexican-looking dude, and I was in a prison, right, getting arrested for drugs, and I've never done drugs, and so and then I was really freaked out about that. So, are you going to bring me back to prison? And he just kind of looked at me and says, "What do you think?" I woke up from that soon after that conversation with this Mexican-looking gentleman in a truck bringing me out for a day trip. but I was going back to prison. I woke up, that's too much to handle. That's too much to take. So I have to continue that in a lucid way. So I have to continue.
Let me ask you, Niall, we can talk another time about what you think, what you're interpreting that the meaning of these dreams are, because there's clearly something going on there. But at a minimum, I would suggest, are you familiar with any of the binaural beats or any of the frequencies that you can listen to while you're in sleep? 111 hertz in particular, 432 is an awesome one. These are all available on YouTube, and they're hours long. And I would highly recommend that you start with 111 hertz. It will change your mind vibration and your body in a profound way.
You're talking about these 12-hour long thunderstorm.
Yeah, some of them are
stuff.
That's more of the white noise or nature sounds. These are specific frequencies that are designed for what they affect, and the 111 hertz is a complete body vibration and frequency. And I would try. There's some out there for an hour, 2 hours. Some of them are even black screen.
Yeah. Cool.
But anyway, I would seriously
maybe you could send me a couple of links.
Yeah, I will do that.
I listen to a lot of those in the middle of the night.
I tell you what, the stuff that came out of Monroe Institute, the Hemisync, there's some channels popped up on YouTube. White noise has been around for a long time, but there's a new channel, and one in particular I've seen. It's nothing but fan noise. So it's all these different fans just blowing and humming. And or you can get washing machines. I remember when I was a kid, I couldn't wait for my mom to get the clothes into the dryer and turn it on, because I would just lay there and go, I'm out. It's just that frequency of that machine, whatever it was, I just resonated hard with it, and boom.
Droning sounds like that put me under too. And my problem was when I worked at the pizza place, the dough roller was a sound, and we'd be in a rush, and I'd be getting all drowsy, and I'm like, everybody's like, how can you be falling asleep? I'm like, turn that damn machine off. Throw them by hand.
My grandfather,
that's
there were
great.
times when we stayed at his house when I was a little boy, and he had a heater that would do that. When the heater would kick in, you'd hear it.
Yep.
And that was still to this day, if I hear anything like that, brings that back. That memory is comforting. As a kid, I always used a fan to sleep.
I have a fan on right now, and
so I had that constant white noise
on 24 hours a day.
Yep. And when I'd get up in the morning, I'd be all showered, dressed, look at the mirror, and go, okay, let's go get the world. And I'd walk through the bedroom, and the fan's still going, and I thought, I'm not turning that off.
I could sneak one in.
Yeah. No, I was uncomfortable turning it off.
I came across an app today for people who are ADD, which I am, and it produces. There's a visual thing that it's doing on the screen, but it produces this sound that, if you put it on in the background, will allow you to focus on whatever you're working on.
Yep.
And I downloaded the app, but I haven't played it yet. I probably should be playing it because I'm behind in my work. But
very interested in what you experience.
Yeah.
How many ADD kids does it take to ride a bike?
I don't know.
Let's go squirrel hunting.
So yeah, I think Niall's. I don't know if he can still hear us, but
he's going to come right back.
Even for you guys, I'll send you links on in Messenger on some of these, because there is a boatload of them, and some of them, it depends on the frequency and how they've produced it. But I've been consuming this stuff literally for the last 3 years, off and on, in particular the last year, and really finding some amazing ones that work for me. And I think, they may, and that's the thing, is figuring out your frequency. When you know yourself, you'll have a better idea what your frequency is. Mm-hmm. Where are you humming? The mind resonates apparently at the same frequency as the field around the earth known as the Schumann the Schumann the Schumann
Schumann
field.
resonance. Yeah.
That resonance. So the resonance, when you think about how the commonalities just in the math,
Resonance is futile.
let alone the geometry that you find when you even just tiptoe into the math field, it's just absolutely amazing, because you can change. Your voice is a resonance chamber for your body. And as when they say there's that term of finding your voice, well, in getting to know yourself, part of that experience is finding your voice. What is that resonance? What is that frequency that your voice is based on? Mine's a low E. It just kind of sits in there, and sometimes it's flat and it's sharp, but it's basically in that range. And I can feel that when I speak, which is why I like to take little extended time and liberties to go beyond whatever a lot of time I've been given to continue expressing whatever I'm saying, because at the end of the day, I just like to hear myself talk.
I love it, Professor. I love it. I think you and I are starting to get very good friends.
Are we understanding one another here?
Yes, I think so.
Are you picking up when I'm laying down? Okay.
Of course I am. I mean,
well, guys, and on that note,
yeah, we have to.
We're going to wrap it. It's 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
Good grief.
Oh, what a shame. We can go on for at least another hour.
Yeah.
We could.
Right.
So
no, we'll let you go.
It's a shame you can't leave the group and leave us going.
Yeah, I wish I could. I probably could. I could just leave the open
get up
mic,
the next day, we'd all be sitting here still talking.
I'll just put my mic on mute and I'll go to bed.
Exactly.
So.
Well, if you guys ever want to do that, I've got my own Zoom, and I can just send you guys invitations, and we can get on and go on with the juicy stuff, because nobody else will be hearing it but us.
That's right. Amanda has proclaimed
I think we'd have to bring Amanda.
I sound amazing.
Yeah, I sound amazing. That's great.
Yes. I want you all to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I sound amazing.
I'm amazing today.
I'm amazing.
I sound amazing.
What is it?
Look amazing.
What's his name used to do on SNL? His a firmament.
Stuart Smalley.
Stuart Smiley.
Just look in the mirror and say, I'm good enough. I'm smart enough. And doggone it, people like me.
And today I'm
Until
going
he
to be,
touched too many butts.
Today I'm going to be happy.
That's right.
Happy.
And in my quest,
damn it, Niall, be happy.
My quest for my daily fulfillment of contentment. I'm not feeling myself today. Can I feel you?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. I'm not feeling me today.
Yes.
You know what would make me happy? Feeling you.
Yes.
Oh, yes. That's because I'm sex addicted. There it is. I'm addicted to sex. Where we started. Now we've come full circle.
Well, for sure you're addicted to Star Trek.
Oh, yeah. And on that
Speaking of Star Trek, have you seen the new trailers for Picard season 3 and the new?
Yeah, that looks pretty good.
Oh man, I'm telling you, they're up in the game. It looks like.
I'm enjoying what I'm seeing there. So
yeah,
Scotty, I'm going to let you go.
Victory lap.
Niall,
goodbye. Niall.
Have a good morning, brother.
Cheers, Niall.
Professor, I might give you a shout in a couple of minutes. And Sarah, I might give you a shout as well.
There you go. Since you guys
Dave,
are so awake.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
Always a pleasure, Niall.
And Scotty, I'll see you the next time, my friend, my brother. All right.
Sarah, always good looking at your
cheers,
little pink dot.
Good seeing you, Niall. Talk to you later.
Do you not have a camera? Do I need to send you a camera?
And Sarah. I just cut off Sarah. I thought I had my button over Niall, and I was going to click it for Niall, and he left, and Sarah's popped into his place on my wall. Sorry, Sarah. That was inadvertent.
You popped a Sarah.
I popped a Sarah.
That'll come back to haunt you.
Yeah, I think so.
It will. All right, Professor. Thanks for being here, brother.
All right, gentlemen. It's a pleasure as always, and
always good seeing you, Prof.
It's always
Now-
it's always great squirreling around in the holes to see what's in there, you know.
That's right. I love squirreling in the holes to see what's
We've got enough seasoned diversity between at least the three of us to throw God knows what on the table and see, you know,
Oh, hell yeah.
see what we put together, because it's just always
Maybe we should come up with a new show just for that.
Man, maybe we should. Let's
we
find
could do
time.
something like a current thoughts roundtable.
Yeah.
What's your thought
We could
on
do it
this?
on
Well, I'm
Saturday
not sure
afternoon.
about that. All right.
Well, we'll talk about that in another show. So, guys, you have a good night. Professor, as always, good to see you. Talk to you
Cheers,
soon.
gentlemen. Thank you.
Uncle Dave,
Have a good one.
as
Give the wife
always,
and kids a hug for me.
I love you, brother. We'll talk soon.
What?
Get your calendar open for painting. We can start painting. We went and picked up some paint today.
Oh, you went and picked up some? I have to pick up all the
and
paint from the,
concrete sealer and stuff like that.
James wants me to come up and pick up all the paint from the mural project. There's
right
many
on.
gallons of stuff there, so I'll load all that in the car and I'll drive it out to Wisconsin.
Sounds good to me.
All right.
Oh, I found a picture on a book cover. Is it down here?
Are you thinking about the window idea that I was kicking around?
Maybe. But as for a mural on one of these walls, something like this without the battle elements in it, but something like that. That
Oh, I like
misty-
that. Who's that by?
This is Bernard Cornwell.
Oh, Cornwell. I
Wrote
thought it said
Sharps
Cromwell. I was
Rifles
like,
and all that, guys.
you're really good that you got that off there before Niall saw it. I thought it said Cromwell.
Oh, yeah. There we go.
Yeah,
It
that's
was
gorgeous. I've got
Oliver
some,
Cromwell's book.
I've got
So-
some interesting stuff like that too. That I've recently jumped on this site. It's all sort of Scottish castles and stuff, and some gorgeous photography. So we can take a look at some of that.
Sounds good to me. You have a good night, brother. I'll
All
talk
right.
to you soon. All right, and all the resty is, we're going to get out of here now. Those who've come in late, you're very late because this is the end of 2 hours of broadcast conversation just now. And in the immortal words of Amanda Berry, snapper. All right, guys. Good night, Susie Q. Good night, Roger Rabbit. Good night, Michelle Canham Free, Amanda Berry, and down in Australia, and Niall over in Ireland, and everybody else from everywhere else. Elderberry, I see you in there. The handful of you who's left. So thanks for being here. Thanks for being part of the show. And we'll see you again tomorrow night. All right, guys. So you have a good night and